Harrison County Community Hospital, your trusted hometown healthcare provider. We're here for you with a 24-hour emergency department, inpatient and outpatient care, and a full range of health services. Our primary care clinics in Bethany and Eagleville are here to meet your everyday health needs. And we're growing with you. Soon, we'll open our brand new state-of-the-art hospital built to serve our community with even greater care right here at home. Our mission is simple: exceptional care for every patient, every day. Learn more at hcchospital.org.
Hi, this is Rhonda from Little Clara's Garden. Bulldog fans, nothing says victory like the beauty of fresh flowers. Little Clara's Garden is your hometown flower shop, proudly supporting the South Harrison Bulldogs. From game day spirit bouquets, balloons, and gifts for every occasion, we've got the perfect gift to brighten your day. Stop by Little Clara's Garden, where every arrangement is made with love, just like our Bulldogs play with heart. Little Clara's Garden, growing community, one bouquet at a time.
All right, welcome in to another one of our Sports Central interviews, sponsored by Harrison County Community Hospital. We have South Harrison Varsity Girls Basketball coach Kale Watson with us. And, Coach, we're picking up, you just had your first conference game last night, a win over Trenton. But your season started just before Thanksgiving with a home game versus Platte Valley. You got a win there. Then went down to Savannah and a really tough tournament. You're playing 4 and 5A schools there, 3 losses down there, but get back on track last night. Maybe just go over the start of your season with us so far this year, setting at 2-3 right now.
Yeah, our first game of the year, played a good Platte Valley team. Like always, they're pretty steeped in tradition with basketball over there. Probably was a little sloppier of a game than we would have liked. Thought we did a good job of turning them over. We just didn't execute on those possessions, and we kind of came up with a bunch of empty ones. Got pretty fortunate. We got down there in the third by 7 or 8, did a pretty good job of battling back. And we ended up getting a go-ahead bucket to go up 1 with, I think, inside of a minute. And then from there, we did a good job of executing late game. Kind of set our defense pretty well, I thought, in that game. Kind of took away what they were trying to get on some baseline and sideline out of bounds stuff. And obviously snuck out of there with a win. And like you said, we transitioned into the Savannah tournament. You kind of know what you're going to get there. A lot of MEC schools. You're going to see athleticism in all 5 spots. So your defense is going to have to be really sound. It's going to be physical. It's going to be fast. And that's exactly what it was. I think early on with Savannah, we were probably not quite ready for that game. Got us down big in the first quarter. And just kind of picked apart the things that maybe we weren't quite prepared for, off some ball screens. Rebounding was a big issue. Taking care of the ball. Anytime you play a team like that, it's not just offense. They're gonna come at you with some good defense, and that kind of happened in all 3 games. We turned the ball over way too much. I didn't feel like we had a good awareness of valuing those possessions. Kind of like I told the girls last week, you don't want to take early season losses. But I feel like if you're going to go do it, you'd rather do it against really quality teams, teams that are bigger than you, that are going to poke holes in some things that you're doing or not doing, for that matter. And we kind of had to regroup, kind of had to, rally the troops Monday afternoon for practice. And I thought, we kind of challenged them in some areas with the rebounding, especially erasing at the rim, checking out. In terms of half-court offense, it's about we got to have more ball movement. It's got to touch more sides. We've got to have more awareness of taking care of the ball. So that was a big key on Monday on offense. And I thought last night was a good step in the right direction. There's still some things on defense we've got to clean up. Guarding the basketball, setting down. A lot of it's little stuff, just things that these girls can fix, but it's going to take a concentrated effort from, everybody that's on the court at any given time. So good to be on the right track. But again, we face another opponent this Thursday that took us to task last Friday. So we got to kind of bounce back and be ready for that brand of basketball on Thursday over at Maryville.
Yes, you have Maryville on Thursday, Brookfield, another GRC game on Friday. So busy week this week, almost like a tournament week with 3 games. But going back to that conference win last night over Trenton, we had the opportunity to live stream it. So Trenton lost quite a few players from last year, but they come out full court pressure. They're trying to get turnovers early. You guys reverse it. You get some full court pressure, and you're able to get some transition easy baskets out of that.
Yeah, I think with this crew, that's something we've really been challenging them. I think this crew's got the ability to be really good defensively. Um, and so anytime we can flip the tables on somebody and apply some pressure on the full court, that's obviously a tactic that we have. I think it translates to on the road too. So if you can get out and get some easy baskets, that gets the ball going through the hole and people start to gain some confidence. And I thought for the most part early on, we rattled them with our full court pressure. And kudos to them. Like, I think that's kind of in talking to their coach, they knew they had to play that way. And so it was kind of a similar affair between them and us. They were going to press us, we were going to press them. But I thought early on we did a really good job of, even whenever we got a steal, we did a really good job of valuing the basketball and the ball was clicking around a little bit. Whereas the week before, I felt like we would have probably rushed something really quick. Bailey Barnett had a whale of a first quarter. I think she was in double digits in the first quarter. And that's what we've got to have that. We've been talking to our girls, and any given night, it could be someone completely different than the night before that's gonna put some points on the board for us, and we've got to share it around. And I thought last night was a good indicator of the ability to do that. Now, again, there's things on defense that, like most coaches, you're not quite comfortable with. So I think the fouling was big last night. We can't bail people out 92 feet from the hoop. So that's got to be something we clean up. But like you said, I thought our defense jump started our transition game for us.
And so you look at a team, you return a good portion of the team from last year. You lose two players, Abigail Malloy, Aubrey Cannon. Malloy averaged right about 16 points per game, Cannon about 5.5 per game. And so Malloy being your leading scorer last year, coming in, knowing you're going to have to pick up points somewhere. And so I was looking at statistics this morning. Obviously, Lexi Hunter's picked it up. You figured she was your number 2 scorer last year. She's went from right about 8 to 9 to over 11 a game. But Bailey Barnett, 17 last night, 15 versus Lincoln Prep. She's over 10 per game. And then some points off the bench with Rory Fitzgerald, Piper Malloy stepping up at 6 and 5.8 points per game to go along with those starters that are seniors that are out there, juniors. But to get that scoring off the bench, it's one of those you mentioned, you're going to have to figure out how that scoring comes when you're losing about 35-40% of your points from a year ago.
Yeah, like you said, we kind of expected Lexi to carry some of that. She can't carry all of it. We know that. And we had a pretty big conversation about it this summer. I think the way we're built, we're going to have to share it and spread it around, and we clearly have the ability to do that. I think early on it's been kind of a task of figuring out who's going to do it, when it's going to happen. That's been a big key for us, is that we've got to attack small advantages. We got to attack big advantages. And I think the one thing we have this year, with Bailey stepping up, is now we've got that inside presence, but Rory's really come on strong. Rory does a great job off the bench. She's a spark when it comes to rebounding. She's a spark when it comes to scoring. Not that we didn't expect that from her, but maybe not quite this early. So really, really impressed with what Rory's been able to do. I thought Piper Malloy did a fantastic job last night of taking well-executed shots, knowing when to attack, knowing when to kick it. And I think we're going to have to get Briley and Abby to kind of step some things up from the perimeter. I thought Briley did really, really well against Maryville. And you kind of know that when you've got shooters, you'd like them to be hot right out of the gate. But with shooting and kind of like finishing around the rim, that takes a little bit of time. But I think after last night, and, the previous games, we talked about that, Bailey and Lexi, for the most part, have been pretty consistent, but we've had other girls pop off for 6, or like Briley had 11. The capabilities there. It's just, we've got to do a really good job of understanding that we're going to have to spread that around and be okay with that at times. And I think there's still a lot of growth with this group. Like you said, we lost 2 pretty key players. When you lose Abigail Malloy, essentially a 3-year, if not a 4-year starter, you're going to lose a little bit of leadership on the court. And I think that's what we're kind of trying to challenge them to do too, is understanding when things aren't going right. Where do we go with the ball? What actions, what sets do we need to execute? And so those are all things that we can clean up. It's just going to take a collective effort to do that.
And so you talked about rebounding. You guys saw, I know last year, a lot of zone. You'll probably see quite a bit of zone this year. Having coached basketball, it's hard to rebound out of a zone. So getting your girls to try to hit those boards where teams aren't just matched up to be able to box them out and get those rebounds more easily, something you've really emphasized this year?
Yeah. I think when I look at our first 4 games, we were getting dominated on the glass. And that to me, like you said, it's hard to rebound against the zone. But rebounding's not difficult. Rebounding comes down to a choice. You either get on the glass and you are aggressive about it and you have a mentality about yourself, and you assume that every 50-50 ball is yours. Same thing with defensive rebounding. That just comes down to effort, desire, having a willingness to hit a body. And I don't know that we're quite a little better step last night. But when you start to play better competition, you're going to have to start. It's going to have to be more of a collective effort more often. And so, again, I think that's the big challenge with this crew, continuing to push them, continuing to challenge them. And if we know anything about these girls and this group of athletes, they are pretty good about answering the challenge, right? They're pretty good about trying to correct those mistakes. So I think that's something that we've just got to keep, kind of the cliche, keep pounding the stone until we crack it and we fix it. But I think that right now is somewhat of an Achilles heel. And I think it's something that we can fix, but like you said, it's got to be a point of emphasis. And so that's just kind of what we got to focus on moving forward.
And so we mentioned Maryville, you're at Maryville, at Brookfield. So big road trips, long road trips, going opposite ways from Bethany this week. Brookfield, another GRC team. Then you get Gallatin at home next Tuesday, and then at Marceline. So you've got Trenton, Brookfield, Gallatin, Marceline, all in the GRC. I would assume winning a conference title would be one of the goals that you guys have as a team. You've been there the last few years. Trenton, a team that was replacing quite a few players. Brookfield, just kind of looking here at my screen, Brookfield right now sets at 1-4. They haven't played a conference game, but Marceline 1-0 in conference, 4-1 overall. That's a game as well as that Gallatin game. Gallatin has some girls returning. They're 2-3 so far in the season, but we understand early in the year sometimes records don't mean everything. But Marceline, Gallatin joined you guys at 1-0 in the conference. So 2 tough conference games coming up before Christmas break.
Yeah. Obviously that's a goal. I think it would be for anyone that's, in our conference. So you would hope to think that most people have that in their minds. But again, you got a target on your back. We can't take any of the next 3 conference games lightly. And I think that's a big key for us is that we had that conversation last night. We were 1-0 as of last night. Wake up this morning, you're 0-0. That again is a mentality. It's got to be, we can't get one step ahead. We've got to kind of stay really present on fixing us, fixing the things that we're not doing well, but continuing to polish the things that we are doing well. And with those conference games, you kind of know what you're going to get with some of the teams. Historically, you would have seen those teams and particularly what defenses they run, what offense. So that helps. But again, you got new players coming in. I think Gallatin's got a new coach. So again, it's just about for us early in the season, we've got to clean some of these things up that are kind of an Achilles heel right now. And I think keeping our sights set on the game in front of us. Right now, it's all eyes focused on Maryville, trying to put the best foot forward in that game. And then, we'll get to Brookfield on Friday. And then, when next week gets here, we'll start the game plan and prep. We talked a lot about that yesterday. There's certain things you can control, preparation, execution. Those are things you can control. And so I think for this crew right now, until we start seeing some improvement in some of those areas, it's about executing, right? It's about making sure we understand the prep work and we are executing the little things. I think that is the thing I've noticed so far with us is there's a lot of potential, but we've got to be better at the little things. And so that's going to be a point of emphasis for us as a coaching staff, and hopefully for them as players, and in an effort to, hopefully win a 4 straight conference championship. But we kind of know what's coming and we know what's ahead of us, so we've got to be prepared for all of that.
And you mentioned having a target on your back, and I was just looking back over the records the last few years. You guys there at the top in the conference, but Coach, I'll finish with this question. You've got a number of players that have been in the system since they were freshmen, but they're playing different roles. Some of them this year. How do you get that over like into their minds that hey, you've been this player before, this year we need you to be this for us, and maybe they're a senior or junior, most of them as far as playing varsity minutes are, this is what we need you to do this year compared to what you've done years before?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'm not sure I have the answer to that because we're still trying to figure all that out. A lot of it starts in practice. The CF, your practice habits become your game habits, and for some of them, they are in different roles. For some of them, expectations are higher because of the role that they have that they may not have had a year ago, and for some of them, their role has changed, hopefully in a way in which we expect more of them. And that's pressure filled for some of them, I have no doubt. But we wouldn't put them in that spot if we didn't trust in all of them. I think all the girls we put on the court, we have a supreme amount of trust in. But again, like you said, some people's roles are changing. Some people's roles are more important than maybe a year ago. Maybe they were a sub player, they subbed in and they were in a rotation situation. Now they are starting, or they are playing twice as many minutes. So it's going to come down to practice and exposing them to those situations to where we want them to fail in practice, so that when they get in the game, they kind of know where that's coming from and they understand how to attack those situations, and they feel comfortable in a spot maybe they didn't feel uncomfortable with. And a lot of that, I think, was the Savannah tournament. A lot of them were put in uncomfortable situations. Some of us got exposed. As a coaching staff, we didn't prepare them probably as well as we should have. So it's all hands on deck with the role type situation. And I think the way we do our system, we're pretty good about clarifying roles. Everyone's kind of got a position on the court. They all have a name to it. I mean, with those names come responsibilities and the things that you're looking for. And I think for us, we've probably got to be a little better as a coaching staff of really drilling down what each person's role is. Are you a one-way player? Are you a two-way player? Are you a three-read player? And that's something that is present of mind for me. Certain players are better at attacking. Certain players that we have are better at shooting. And we want them to be in those situations more often so they're more successful. And I think that just comes down to practice at the end of the day.
All right. Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Good luck the rest of this week with Maryville and Brookfield. We look forward to talking with you again next week. Big thanks to Harrison County Community Hospital for sponsoring all of our Sports Central content. And good luck the rest of the way this week, Coach.
Thanks, CF.